Good afternoon and good morning to everybody out there. We are happy to have you a part of our webinar here today. We're going to give it just a few moments to make sure everybody gets situated out there in the audience. So we're going to be just silent here for a moment and we'll get started in just a few minutes. All right, still see some folks trickling in. All right, numbers are still coming in. We'll hang tight for just a little bit longer. All right, I think, oh, there's more, there's more. All right, well, very exciting. Again, we're happy to have everybody joining us here this afternoon / this morning, wherever we might find you. We are the League of Railway Women. Our entire purpose and existence is for connecting and cultivating women in rail. The organization has been around since 1996 and open to anyone who is sharing of that same mindset of what the League of Railway Women stands for. Today, you can participate in one of two ways. You can listen in by the default option that I assume most of you are experiencing right now, which is through your computer speakers, or you can elect to participate via telephone. As you are all recognizing, you are in listen-only mode, but we do want you to participate. So at any time, should you have a question you want our awesome panel here this afternoon to ask or respond to, you'll see a questions drop down on your dashboard. It should be second from the bottom. You'll just type in whatever question you have there, submit, and we will get to those toward the end of our time here this afternoon. As mentioned, the League of Railway Women is open to anyone who is sharing of our same mindset. Individual memberships are $60 a year and get you all sorts of great resources, one of which we'll be showing here this afternoon, our brand new career board. And our corporate partners, whom we love, two of which are on our call here today. Your membership gets you, again, all kinds of great options such as this. And some of those corporate partners you see on screen right now, again, we thank them very much for all that they are able to do and provide to the League of Railway Women. They are why we exist and what keeps us going. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our fantastic panel that will be speaking to you here the rest of our time together. So first and foremost, we've got Michelle Malsky, founder and president of Succession Planning for Railroads, Investing in the Next Generation, also known as SPRING. Also the director at large for the League of Railway Women. Michelle recruits next generation railroaders for employers and helps employers retain that talent with various custom training and mentorship programs. Before founding SPRING and connecting dots for candidates, employers alike, Michelle worked with the American Shortline and Railroad Association and the Shortline Safety Institute in Washington, D.C. as their manager of safety and hazmat training. Also with BNSF as a train master, Canadian Pacific as a division train master, Bombardier and Mark Commuter Lines as an operational manager. In addition to her duties with LRW, Michelle is also the chair of the Young Professionals Committee with ASL-RRA and recently joined the Transportation Club of Kansas City's Board of Directors. Michelle graduated from the Cornell University with a major in Industrial Labor Relations and Law and holds an MBA from Quantic University with a special credential in Diversity and Inclusion. In her free time, when she has it, Michelle is an avid runner and cheers for the Kansas City Chiefs. Ray Varell, Vice President of Engineering Services with Amtrak, has over 29 years in the railroad industry in the areas of infrastructure design, construction, and operation. He currently holds the position of VP of Engineering Services with Amtrak, where he oversees all aspects of infrastructure engineering, including design, engineering standards, infrastructure, asset management, and safety. In 21 years of those 29, he has spent and held positions within engineering, design, Deputy Chief of Engineering Structures, Engineering Construction, Electric Traction, and Senior Construction Engineer. He has also worked in the private sector for Gannett Fleming Transit and Rail Systems as Chief Engineer. Samantha Brandon, Human Resources Generalist with the Greenbrier Companies, is from a small town in the Northeast Arkansas area and graduated from Arkansas State with an associate and bachelor degree in science, focusing on psychology and education. She obtained her Society for Human Resource Management designation in 2021 and has been in the human resources field for over 10 years. Prior to that, she was in the mental health case management field. The combined experience has provided her the opportunity to serve with empathy and provide resources to her team of over 300 people with Greenbrier. And as for myself, I am Erica Brunke. I am your moderator here this afternoon. I am one of the other directors at large with Michelle for the League of Railway Women, as well as the Vice President of Training Services with RailPros. We are very excited today. This is the last of our four-part series in career growth. Today, we are focusing on how to make a resume and a cover letter, if necessary, we'll find out, for railroad positions. So without further ado, let us get started into our awesome series of questions. All right, Michelle, we will start with you. Very first question. What makes a railroad resume different from all the other resumes that we might submit in the larger career world?
Well, thank you, Erica. I appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak with you and all of our other members from the LRW. One of the things that we really look at when we think about a railroad resume, it's not that much different than everybody else. Something that you might see, though, is some certification. So if you had eRail Safe, if you've been in the operations world, if you've managed certain teams or projects, there's certain terms and knowledge that comes directly from the rail industry that you might see in some of these resumes. Now, if you're coming from a different industry and you need to kind of relay that information into our jargon, a good first step is to just really pare back what those basic skills might be. So if you're going into a sales role, again, it's not going to be that much different on the skills side. You still have that same asset, but what you would probably want to think about is how does that contrast with some of the rail products. So again, if you're coming from trucking and you've been selling chassis for the last 10 years and you're making that transition over, think about some rail products that might either intersect with that world or study up on the products that would be within that job or that company that you're looking for. So the skills, kind of the core skills, are really similar, but again, when you see someone that maybe has been in the rail industry for a few years, you're going to see some different terminology, a little bit of different jargon, as well as different certifications that they're going to highlight as well.
Love that, getting a little more focused to the qualifications, the certifications. Great. Ray, what are your thoughts on a railroad resume versus any other resume?
Well, I would have to agree with Michelle. While the resume itself isn't a huge difference, it's some of the skill sets that we would be looking for in our particular industry. And from my perspective, it's usually operations or engineering. But at the same time, those that don't have a lot of railroad experience, the skills are transferable. So while you may not be a candidate for a higher level position in the organization, there are skills, from hiring engineers or managers, project managers. So all those skills and certifications are important, and they are fully transferable. So we would be, you want to take the time to read the job you're applying for and tailor your resume to those different skills and requirements.
You bring up a very good point there that I think we may touch on a little bit later, reading that job description. Thank you, Ray. All right, Samantha, what are your final thoughts on a railroad resume versus a resume coming from other industries?
I think it's very hard to follow Michelle and Ray on that one. They've covered most of everything. I think in the entry level roles, it's going to be very important to talk about teamwork. If you don't have a lot of skills necessarily in the rail business yet, you still can talk about teamwork, how you collaborate, how you work well with others, your passion for people. And I think focusing on some of those types of skills will help build up that entry level resume, which is still very important.
No, great point with teamwork. It doesn't matter what part of our industry
Correct.
you're coming into, that's always going to be a critical skill. Thank you so much. Great start to our conversation. Let's buzz right on into question number 2 here. So Samantha, you were just talking there about, all right, teamwork. It may not necessarily be directly connected to a position. So talk to us about how do we take non-railroad experience and make it relevant to a railroad position?
I think it lends itself well because it's still a business. Most of the places that you work or that you have experience in are also businesses. So there are going to be measurables within that. Maybe it's about technology or how you help develop a team. You can still focus on quality and some measurables. It's about finding those metrics that I think transcend all resumes and finding ways to utilize that to match up with real experience.
Great comment there with metrics and measurables. We heard about that a lot during our interview conversation, talking about outcomes. You always want to be able to communicate what you can do and bring to an organization. So focusing on metrics, wonderful. Ray, what are your thoughts on non-railroad experience and how it can be relevant for a railroad?
Again, I agree with Samantha that a lot of skills are transferable, and it also depends on what the owner or the hiring manager is looking for. And my particular perspective would be from the hiring manager. I would not look for someone with non-railroad experience for a high-level technical or managerial position. However, a project manager, for instance, we manage projects the same way that the general industry manages projects. The PMP certification, we value that as equally as the rest of the industry. So for that particular, level in the company, I would look, okay, what projects have they managed? Are they similar in size and scope, financially, schedule wise? What type of difficulty is the project versus we might be looking more for more experience in like a chief bridge engineer or something like that. So the key is making your non-railroad skills transferable, like for a project manager, or even like a lot of our train masters and we'll hire people off the street, which is good managerial and understanding of the business skills, and then we'll bring in and we'll train them ourselves to be a train master. So there's it's very critical to match your skills with the job postings you're evaluating, and then sell yourself to in the right way.
No, that's perfect. And I like that word transferable. It doesn't necessarily matter to get into an organization, what experience you have. If you can relate it and transfer it into the skills that you need for that role, then we're cooking with gas, if you will. All right, Michelle, I believe you've got some great advice on how you can capture your past experience and make it relevant.
Absolutely. There's a couple things that we got to talk about here. And one of them, just to kind of come off of what Ray was saying as well, is that if you're in some sort of industry that is, even if it's a heavy industry, maybe you don't touch rail, maybe you do. If you show me a little bit that you either, have heard of a railroad or, I was working with a transload and, although I wasn't on the rail side, we communicated with those clients. If I can just see that my industry, right out of the gate, that's going to perk my ears up. So if there's a way that you can identify even clients, even if you're not touching them at that moment, if you know that your company is striving for that, and say, hey, bring it up in the interview and say, hey, we've been doing a lot of work with this. I'm really interested to research more. Again, just showing that indicator, showing that interest in the industry. So that's a component as well. One thing that, Eric, I know you vouch on this as well, especially if you're coming into the operations side, safety is number one. So if there's anything you've ever done with safety in your past life, even if you're on an office safety hall monitor, I don't care what it is, if you can show me that you prioritize safety and you've done tasks that make sure that that is your priority, that's another thing that's going to perk my ears up as well. Now, one of the things that I do want to talk about is, when we apply to different jobs, it better not be the same resume that I used from 2012. And what I mean by this is when you start entering after college or after high school, however you get started in your first career, look at that job description and start pulling some of those bullets over into your resume. Start making a master list, a master resume. Now, this master resume probably won't go out to anybody because it's going to be 8 pages long by the time 10 years comes by. But at least you will remember what you did at your first job, and you will be able to have quantifiable examples to say, I learned how to make this belt run, and here's all the components, here's the obstacles I had. Just make it almost like a pre-interview prep for yourself to look back at this master resume. And then every time you apply for a job, go back to that master resume. Make sure you update it at least once a year, but have that more refined resume then prepared for the next job. Make sure that you look at the job description, you're seeing what exactly they're asking for, and go through your bullets, say, yep, got that, got that, got that. Even if you have to kind of explain a little bit of how that's relevant, that's okay too. Go for it. But make sure that you have some sort of way to remember all the great things that you've done throughout your career, and that you can build and pull examples off of that for your future interviews and your future jobs that you may have.
No, that's a great idea of creating a timeline, a history, an encyclopedia, for those that know what that is, of who you are and where you've been, so that you can cherry pick the best of those experiences for the job description you're going for. I think this is a great segue into our next conversation here, our next question. So those key elements, if we're going for a job, what are the key things that need to show up on a resume? If it is design, if it is a specific structure, let's talk about that too. But Ray, start us off with what is it that are the key pieces you are looking for on a resume?
Again, I have to go back to the transferable skills. If I'm looking for a bridge engineer, I want to see someone that's designed bridges and been in that end of the industry. Key certifications, professional engineering licenses. A lot of my technical people we either require license or commensurate experience. So while an engineer with 30 years experience, it's a known leader in the industry, may not have his license or her license, we can still consider that equal experience. Certifications like the project manager professional, or I'm sure there's equal HR, certifications, or, we have finance, we have marketing, and we have all the other disciplines. As Amtrak, we're a complete business. So we're selling seats, we're marketing, we have, IT, we have all different types of industry rolled into our business that, some of it quite frankly, doesn't even touch the rail. It's all support of the operation, the function, the business side, financial planning. I mean, we have lawyers, we have a whole team of lawyers. So all those types of certifications that I have very rarely touch on, except when I need a lawyer or a marketing person or a real estate person to help me through some of my issues. It's all about matching your skill set to the job requirements. As far as design and structure for a resume, I like, quick and to the point. I like bullets. I like to see the skills. So when I start going through the resume, the first couple minutes of the interview is tell me about yourself, and we have that little engagement discusussion. I like to clue in on certain bullets where I might want to dig a little deeper and investigate some skills a little more to see how those skills fit with what I'm looking for.
No, love that. So certainly the resume is the teaser. Right, give us enough to know that you have the background we're going for, and we'll talk about the interview component here in a minute. Thank you so much, Ray. Michelle, you already shared some really great components in terms of key elements, matching skill sets. What additional thoughts do you have on a resume structure?
Two things here. So let's talk about the structure and design first. Don't put, we're going to talk about this in a little bit. I know Samantha has got some thoughts on this as well. And so there is going to become a point in your career where your experience becomes more important than your education. So at some point, you will reach, not right out of school, you have no experience, so you do not put that first. So put the most relevant thing up front, all right? Besides how I contact you if you get the job, you need to have your name, your address, make sure that's updated, and a phone number, and maybe even a second set of numbers if you have like a home phone or whatever that may be. What you're going to want to do is put that experience up on top, and again, streamline it to that specific job, and then flop down your education to the bottom. And that's, after you've gained a couple more years of experience, and you do have some projects under your belt that you can have those quantitative examples and stories to talk about. What I don't want to see is somebody telling me their hobbies at the bottom. That is absolutely not relevant. And if that can just kind of derail an interview, pun intended there, because it's just, why are we talking about things that you do after work? I want to know what you're going to bring to the table. So bring anything that's relevant to the table there. The other thing I would shy away from is when you list skills, you should be able to read that from your bullet points. So if you're going to say, oh, I can do teamwork, I can do this, these are things you want to talk about in the interview. These are the examples you want to showcase. You don't want to just tell people, I'm a leader. Okay, well, you better be able to back that up. And being able to back that up also means do not lie on your resume. I will find you. If you lie on that resume, we will know as recruiters. And anybody that's in the operations world, anybody that's on that recruiting or hiring process, if you have not done it, do not put it on there. Because if you do get hired and you're called upon to do it, that's going to be a big mistake. And I know we're going to have a conversation about that in a bit. But be authentic. If you haven't done it, you can say I haven't done it, but I'd like to learn. There are ways that you can kind of formulate better answers that bring you to not be authentic, right? So I think I'll leave it there because I think we have some more thoughts on that later.
No, great comments on structure and design, really helping us to get a visual there. Relevant stuff up top, let's not talk about hobbies and the things you like to do afterwards, and start to really recognize when things need to start getting trimmed off of your resume. And Samantha, I think you've got some comments on that as well. So key elements on a resume, what are your thoughts, Samantha?
Well, I have a couple of thoughts on it. And, to Ray's point, Greenbrier also is full service. So we see lots of resumes that come through, specialty roles, welders, it could be a quality manager. There are lots of different roles that we see. And it does matter what you put in where. So we've learned, I think, that one page is probably your best. And think of this as an introduction. You don't have to sell your entire self in your resume. I think it can get really long, and people typically will not pay attention to the whole resume if it's too long and wordy. So you want to look at that. Does it really highlight the best things about you? If you're going to describe a position and you're going to describe some of the things that you did in that position, answer phones may not just be the first one you want to list. You want to find some of those standout skills. We know you're going to answer phones, but also you are going to meet that with courtesy and respect for people. And I think pulling out some of those types of tangibles, or intangibles rather, you'll be able to kind of sell yourself more. So stick with that one page. Let's not put photos on there. That's really important. It just takes up extra space and it is distracting. We don't need a headshot. We really just need to know the best things about the positions that you were in and how you did those.
Very nice. Thank you so much for that, Samantha. So certainly getting, hearing a theme here of relevance and keeping things certainly outcome focused. What is it that you did? But tell us how you did that as well. Very nice. All right, let's skip right on into this next one because it really is a nice connection to what we were just speaking about of what should be on the resume. Well, now that we know what should be on it, so let's talk a little bit about how resumes get through the application process. So Samantha, how about we continue off of some of the things you were just talking about there? What is the start of this process? How do resumes get into an organization and start to get looked at?
Well, as most companies, especially large ones, we use talent management systems. So there is going to be an entry application. Please fill that out to the best of your ability. Don't leave things blank. That's really important. Just because you have it in your resume doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't also list it in the application. It's important to make sure that that transcends, over to the next system. Now, recruiters typically are seeing, hundreds of resumes, if not thousands a year, and they are looking for basic qualifications. So I think maybe it was Michelle that said this before, job descriptions matter. So when you read through your job description, look at those basic qualifications. It may feel rather simple to you because they are the basic qualifications, but if you don't at least list that, it's going to be very hard to get to the next stage of the process. So if it asks for 2 to 4 years of quality experience, but you forget to put that in, you may not make it to that next round. So it's very important to list those basic qualifications if in fact you have them, or Michelle will know and she will find you. So
No, really appreciate the mention of the application process itself. Just because you have a resume and you know somebody, you still have to put everything into that application, into the process, to your point, to get in and make it to the next level, which, Ray, talk to us a little bit about what happens at that next level. We've made it through the first filter. They're now sitting on your desk. What happens to these resumes?
So then, yeah, once they get to me, then I myself or sometimes it's a panel of hiring managers will sit around and look through the resumes and basically, let's say, pick them apart, but kind of, all right, this person has CNS experience, and what do you think of this resume? And really, we focus on the skill. We're engineers. My group is engineers, so we kind of cut to the chase. We're not as maybe worried about form and function, because engineers not the best writers. We want to get through what the skills are, get to the meat and potatoes, and then set up the next round to come in. One of the things that you don't want to do, because you never know who your audience is as Michelle was saying earlier, take credit for something you may not have done. I've been in the industry 29 years, and I have actually come across engineers taking credit for projects I've worked on, and I never met them before in my life. So they're immediately go into the circular file, and we move on to the next candidate. So be very mindful of how you're presenting yourself, because you never know who's going to be on the other end reviewing it.
Again, that authenticity, that has been a theme all the way through these webinars. Whether it's the resume, the interview, the application, own up to who you are, be proud of who you are. You've got those skill sets, so bring them forth in the correct and thoughtful way. And I appreciate, Ray, what you were mentioning there of it's almost the creator of that resume should be aware of the audience that they're trying to reach. So yes, as Samantha suggested, make sure you get everything to get into that next level. But if you're going for a job in engineering, know that you're trying to speak to engineers. So don't be all flowery. There's no need to. Wonderful. All right, Michelle, your thoughts on, kind of the resumes as they live and breathe through the application process as a whole.
Yeah, I'm really just going to mirror what Samantha and Ray were saying, and I'm going to bring this down to an analogy that Ray will know. If you've ever taken Amtrak before, and I have, so thank you, Ray, for providing great service. One of the things I want to just mention is, again, your resume is your calling card, right? That's the way that people, that's your ticket onto the train. And when you're looking at your skill set there, make sure, again, looking back to that job description, like we were talking about with the different filters, make sure that car number matches the ticket, what it says on the ticket, or else you're not getting on board.
No, love the metaphor there. Obviously, we're all trained people. We love that. All right, so folks in the audience, do remember you have the opportunity to ask us questions directly. Check out that drop-down area, type away your questions, and we will revisit here in just a few moments. All right, getting into our next question. So we've already talked a little bit about what we want to see on our resumes and a few things of what we don't want to see. So Michelle, how about you kick us off with this question? What are the most common mistakes that you see on resumes?
Absolutely. So there's two things I'm going to talk about here, and we handle a community of employers. So we see, a variety of different skills, a variety of different titles, things like that. One of the things I don't want to see is you copying over your Indeed resume and sending that to me for multiple jobs or just one job. If you don't have a real email, we've got a real problem. If you're going to be using just Indeed, basically you're telling me that I don't care enough about this job to create a Word document or a PDF that just has my own email, my own phone number, and things like that. I'm just going to kind of copy and paste. And if I get the feeling you're just going to copy and paste it, then I'm already kind of doubting your interest in this position. So if you are going to send me, just a bare minimum Indeed resume, don't expect too much, because the effort you put in is the same amount of effort I'm going to put in. So if I see that you have it documented the right way, and again, heed everything that Samantha said, do not send pictures in there. This is, this isn't Facebook. This isn't, that we don't want to see any of that. The other thing to keep in mind is when you think you're being creative, and I'm sure you are, please do not put your stuff all over that one-page resume. Because if I have to go looking, the chances are I'm going to miss the most important part, which is over here. Remember, we read left to right, I think. Yes. So we read left to right. So think of that the same way with your resume. We read what we need to from left to right. So keep everything in a very easy to read format. Don't make me go hunting and chasing to see what new bubble that you have next to your picture, what skill or hobby you have, right? So these are just some basic things to keep in mind, but definitely make sure that you keep it in that left to right format.
Very good. Again, know your audience. We are here on this side of the pond, and we read left to right, not up and down, whatever, circular. All right, Ray, you've already shared a little bit in terms of mistakes, certainly referencing back to the authenticity part of this. What other mistakes have you seen on resumes that really did it in for you?
I think applying for positions that aren't quite in your wheelhouse as far as skills or experience. We've often, sometimes they make it through the first pass of, just HR or the whatever computer system we have matching terms and that kind of stuff. And then you get on your desk, you're like, well, why is this person even here? But then, sometimes if we have other jobs, if it's a good resume and there are some good skills, we will set it aside and kick it back down to HR and say, hey, slide this into the other, even though they didn't apply for it, they may be a good fit, and we'll try and do it that way. But I have seen a lot of people either underqualified or not quite the right skill set for what they were looking for.
No, it's a great point, and making sure you're matching skills to skills so that it doesn't appear just a Hail Mary, I want anything, see where I can get. And it's a very nice comment there that there have been times you find a candidate, you know what, maybe this person is better suited somewhere else. And I think that goes back to something we spoke about last week of know your network, and really make sure that you are making and reaching out to your contacts to make sure you understand what's going on with that job posting. Are there already candidates that are in place there? Or if you are maybe underqualified, reach out to someone in that position or rely on your network to say, look, is this something I can shoot for? So great comments there, Ray. Thank you for that. All right, Samantha, what are, aside from photos, we know that, what are other mistakes that you have seen on resumes?
Well, like Michelle said, sometimes people treat it as Facebook. So it's important that that you complete your sentences, that you think about your spelling and grammar. We have tools for that. So to Michelle's point, if you take your time and you work through these type of formatting issues, it's going to tell me that you took the time to take care of these things in advance. It's not generic or staged necessarily, that you really took the time to go over it and make it thoughtful. So I think that's important, and as well as oversharing. A lot of times there may be hobbies, or you've thought of everything you've ever wanted to do in your life, and it's on that one resume, that 10-page, 8-page she talked about. So I don't need that page. Honestly, no one's going to spend the time reading 8 pages. So you're just really hurting yourself by overdoing it. So let's stay within that sweet spot, per se, on that one page. And remember, take this as an introduction. You're going to be able to knock it out of the ballpark in your actual interview.
Perfect. I know we're about to look at some examples of perhaps some good and bad resumes here. And I think I know some of the other comments I've heard before, don't give me a paragraph when a couple bullets will do. So really be pointed with what you're putting into a resume. So here we go. Here's a first resume. You might look at this. No, voting, everybody vote. No, you might look at this and go, well, what's wrong with this resume? I mean, there's bullet points on there. Most relevant experience clearly is first. All right, well, first and foremost, just so the audience can tell, this is actually a copy and paste. This is a snip onto a piece of paper, if you will. So it's an image. And you'll also note, Michelle mentioned a moment ago, things are all over the place. We're having to skip around and look all over for, all right, education, contact information. We're not reading as a normal human would. And we also see on that far right-hand side there, alignment issues. Typos, grammar, all of that basic things, alignment really does say a lot in just a short amount of time. So panel, was there anything else that we wanted to mention as to why this is a no, this is a bad resume?
I mean, just in it looks like the lack of attention that was given, it cries out to me, poor work ethic. And that's, that's for you, that would be a showstopper right there.
Also, the summary is not really necessary. If you want to, I mean, okay, but I can summarize. I'm an adult. I can read what you have, and I'm sorry if that is a little bit harsh, but we're going to read your resume and we're going to summarize it anyway. So I don't think you need to. That's something that is just an extra that you could have literally filled with another skill in there that would have probably been more impressive.
And then take the bullets and the bold font. Everything can't be bold or nothing's bold. So really think through the bolding of text. Use it sparingly on things that count. Don't overdo it or overshare.
Overshare it. No, love that. We've got the random bolded sentence in the summary that makes you think, well, what about that versus everything else in that paragraph? All right, so there's a bad one. Now let's, of course, balance this out. Let's see. Oh, how could I forget about ham? All right, definitely a no. Obviously, this is exaggerated. However, definitely showing use of photo, not important. We do not need to know what you look like to balance and weigh your skill sets. Your skill sets should stand on their own. So panelists, please, what do we think about ham?
I want to get this one kicked off because I really like the imagery on the bottom. We started out with a small stack and now we got a large stack of coins. But what if you don't do that in your job? We're going to bring up your resume and be like, where's the next stack, right? Don't use images. Don't do that.
I don't know, I might bring him in for an interview just for comedy relief.
Listen, dude, these shades, I have to see what you're all about. My goodness. And
I was going to say the same thing about shades. If I can't even see who you are, so it's not a professional photograph. So what are you trying to, I don't know, convey? That you're cool? It just seems very vain.
Exactly. And certainly love that we were trying to get, some graphics in there with skill sets, but by putting a graph to it, you've now really discounted some of the skill sets that are may be important for you. Sure, the Italian language may not be valuable in all job opportunities, but it could be if you're a translator. So obviously very dramatic, but
I just want to add too that these are examples that we found online, and these are not real situations. So we're not calling harm or making fun of anybody here. We're just literally using these as an example, as an educational tool.
Correct. Very, very excellent point. These did not come from our career page. These did not come from any sort of railroad reservoir somewhere. These all came from Google and the exact search of bad resume. Very good. All right. Moving on to now examples of good resumes. So here we have one very nice, very clean. Michelle, to your earlier point, just put everything in a normal left to right pattern, and from things that are most important and relevant to those that are not. So we do still have a summary up top there, but this one looks a little more relevant perhaps to the job that is in question. So panel, thoughts on this first example of a good resume?
Clear and to the point. I like the bullets so I can zoom in on what I'm looking for and quickly filter out if it's a yes or no.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I think the bolds are correct. It does stand out the right way. I think you could have, to Michelle's point, reduce the summary and add some more skill sets in there, maybe some more metrics. But I love the fact that when I look at it, it is not overwhelming. It makes
Mhm.
me want to read through it, like a nice article. So I like that.
Ebony, give me a call. Let's get you hooked up in the rail industry.
There we go. So this brings up a good point, Michelle. You mentioned this early on. Of if you don't have a lot of experience, of course, keep your education in there. So let's say Ebony is perhaps a part of that crew that not a lot of experience. Maybe the summary was to fill space. What happens when we feel that we don't have enough to fill that one page standard, Samantha, that you mentioned? What would you all suggest to fill the void, if you will?
Okay, I don't mind to take that one. I think a lot of times just pulling in some additional content. So, at the bottom of Cloud Clearwater, evaluated 50 plus products and design to ensure quality and safety. Well, maybe name a few of those products or design if you can. You can be very general about it, but being able to add some additional wording there will help kind of bring that sentence along. So I think you can add a little bit there. It's not over the top and it will fill it out. Fonts matter, don't make it a 24, but if you don't have enough at a 10, you can make it a 12. So really think through, placement, but just add a few more words, a little more descriptors. You can do things like that.
And I want to
Very
say
good.
what we were talking about before too is look back at that job description, see what else that you can enhance yours with. And say, you know what, I am a team builder, and here's how I did that at my experience as a master engineer. So there's other things that go back to that job description, that use that as your compass for your resume for that application.
And I think don't stress over you have to fill the sheet out completely. As the hiring manager, we're also targeting the candidates that have this. So if we're looking for entry level, we're not stressing over, oh, do they have a full page, or we want to just enough skill set or experience or educational requirements to get you in the door, and then we'll get to know you a little bit better.
And don't forget
Excellent.
that you can use Google. That's what it's there for. I mean, find some things kind of like what you've done and learn from it. Please do not plagiarize or cut and paste. But you can use those as examples. There are thousands and thousands of resumes out there, so you can get some ideas. And I think that's something to take away. Use that research to your favor.
Wonderful, Samantha. And certainly this group right here, not just literally the panel we're looking at, but the League of Railway Women is a fantastic resource for that very thing. We've got all kinds of folks up and down and sideways across industries. So reach out to one of us, share your resume with us, share your resume with people like Michelle on the recruiting side of the house for feedback. That's exactly what we're here for. And we'll see here in just a moment on our career page, we actually do have a little bit of a helper for those that might be nervous about what their resume looks like. All right, I believe we've got one more. Nope, no more example there. We're going right on into our next and final question. And again, those in the audience, if we haven't already covered a topic that you are interested in, please let us know in the questions section, so we're sure to answer all of your questions and concerns. So we've been talking a lot about a resume, what it is and what it's intended to do. So in the past, we've always been, we've heard about this thing called a cover letter. So Ray, if you could start us off with this question: when is a cover letter or any sort of additional content relevant or required in this process?
So by the time I get the cover letters and the resumes, I'll be perfectly honest, I've never read a cover letter in my career. So I'm right to the meat and potatoes. I'm not sure if HR has a different perspective, but I don't see a need. Like I said, I'm on a couple steps up, down. So I'm just looking for what I need. Additional content, I don't think it's necessary in the application process, but it is very helpful in the interview process. You come with some of your project materials or whatever, accomplishments you've had, that sometimes has been the difference in award or moving on to the next candidate.
No, I'm very glad you mentioned the interview portion of this. That we're not saying that please don't share all of this other great material with us. We're mentioning that there's a right time and a place, and that interview is definitely the time to bring out a portfolio or anything along those lines to elaborate on the simplicity that you included in your resume. Thank you, Ray. All right, Samantha, your thoughts on a cover letter?
I agree with Ray. I think, especially in the recruiting field, you see so much material in the beginning. Depending on what you add to your digital application, it can get quite long. And we've read through that. We've gone on. We're about to get to your resume, and then we have 4 more paragraphs to read in a cover letter. It typically gets skipped. I know I've seen traditional roles, traditional fields to where they do like a cover letter. But for the most part, I don't think they have quite the status that they once did.
No, and I think it's probably good to mention, again, research and understand the job that you're applying for. If you're going for a C-suite position, you might want to include something a little more detailed. However, the the entry level, the more mid-level, I think we're getting the theme here of cover letters may not carry as much oomph as they once did. Michelle, your thoughts on cover letter and additional content?
Yeah, I'm going to make another analogy here because I just talked in analogies apparently. So who knows what the housing market's doing right now, right? You get a house on the market. If you don't look at it that day and put an offer in it, you're gone. It's done. That house is done. It's very similar right now in the candidate market. I would like to kind of make that analogy there. If you have an interested candidate and they're qualified and they're ready to go, you got to move quickly. Meaning moving quickly. I don't have time to read your cover letter. I see what I see. I like what I see. I'm going to get you into that interview as quickly as I can. The only other thing I would add to that is if you do have an interview, whether you are successful or not, it is very good practice to thank those that are there and send up a follow-up email. So if you don't include a cover letter, and maybe you feel weird about it, maybe you don't. Maybe it's required for that job because there are some employers, especially like Eric was saying, or the higher ups that want to know a little bit more about your passion or, what would your mission be or, some other kind of hypothetical scenario that you have to answer. But in general practice, whether you're going for entry level to C-suite, send a follow-up, say thank you, I appreciate your time. And, that does go a long way. And it versus burning a bridge, it might build a bridge for the future.
No, excellent point with that follow-up. We have to remember at the end of the day, everyone involved in this process is a human, and we all learned the golden rules back in kindergarten. Those still do apply as we go through our railroad careers. Well, fantastic. At this point, I would love to introduce to the audience the career board that we have launched over the past couple of weeks. So we're going to do just a quick tutorial here to show you, all right, resumes, since we've been talking about that today. What and where are we able to apply these? So we should now see on screen our the League of Railway Women homepage. So we'll see right here in the middle is the Career Center. This has recently been added. You'll see a drop down for both job seekers and job posters. So job posters would be for the likes of Samantha, Ray, Michelle, anyone that might be looking to gain talent. They would be going here to post those positions. So us, we are looking as a job seeker here today. We're interested in what might be out there. So I will sign in to our job seeker page using my League of Railway Women login details. In public typing, let's make sure I did that right. All right, so that gets us to our home page here. So we will see as a job seeker, we've got a couple of things here. Our overview page, and we see this is for Minnie Mouse, her overview page here. She is able to see her public profile. We are able to make a profile absolutely public, which means people posting careers, companies that are searching for talent. Everybody is able to see that I am interested, that Minnie is interested in a new position. You can halfway hide your profile, which means only relevant details. Your resume are posted, but your wishes and what you're searching for are kept hidden. Or you can completely shut down and keep your profile private if you are just wanting to get maybe prepared for a job search or just wanting to kind of poke around quietly. You can see who has actually come to look at your profile since the day that you have put it out there. So you can see how many hits or how many people, employers might be interested in what you have to bring to the table. And you can also see then applications that you have submitted, jobs you have applied for over the last 12 months. You can refer back to those that are still pending. You can research ones that have already gone by, but it gives you, this dashboard gives you a really nice quick snapshot of what you are doing and what you would like to see within this new tool. So Samantha mentioned this, I mentioned this a moment ago. We have a great tool here called Utilizing the Resources with Top Resume. You upload your resume here and you click this pretty blue button, and you will get immediate feedback from the folks at Top Resume as to how strong and efficient your resume is and stands up to others within the same space. You see you get a free one time, but you can utilize this resource as many times as you'd like. Or also, as we mentioned, just reach out to any of us within the League of Railway Women or perhaps other associations that you're a part of. We've all been through the job search process. We've all built resumes. We can certainly help you along with that process. So in order to get started with the job seeking process, you first need to complete a profile. So I'll show you what our profile piece looks like here. So what we have here was already created. Minnie Mouse came in and created her profile. You've got name, current job and position, and a little bit of what they're looking for, where they want to go, and what their aspirations are in the future. We see some experience in the past, so this is going back to what Samantha was saying there. Well, this is not the application process specific to each employer. This effectively serves in the same way. Really get down to the nitty-gritty. Don't skip on anything, because these details are what is then going to be pulled over into those applications that you are going to be applying for. Your experience, obviously most important. Michelle mentioned this. Keep that right up top. Keep it bulleted to the point. What were the outcomes and how did you get there? Your education, of course, is still important, albeit maybe not the first thing that goes up on your profile or into your resume. If you have a resume, certainly get that uploaded. And contact information, very important, so that we know exactly how to get in touch with you, because this detail is then what will go into the applications on the jobs that you are searching for. And if you ever need to edit this because you've recently added new experience, you can do so by editing your profile. So going back here, what happens now? We're interested. We've got a really solid resume. We are ready to go. You now go to this job tab right here, and you are able to start searching for positions that are currently posted within our job board. You'll see right here, very prevalent on the right-hand side, all right, Metrolink is looking for a railroad system engineer. If this fits your needs and this is really up your alley, you've read the job description and your resume fits, you can click this Apply Now button and away you go. If this is one you're like, you know what, this is interesting, but I'm not quite sure if I'm ready to apply for this yet, you can click Save Jobs, which then lists right here, and we're able to go back and apply at a different time on a different place. You can also simply browse by searching for key categories, key states, entry level versus experienced, full-time type positions, or you can explore if you're just curious what's out there. And you can actually click into different states if you want to stay close by, family or things of that nature, or click into the alphabet, if you will, if you want to zero it in and get more into employers that are available in those areas. So we know we saw Metrolink, there we are, we see Metrolink there, Montana Rail Link, Amtrak, we see them in there as well. All right, and resources. If you're ready to go and start talking with some folks as to, you know what, I think I've got a solid resume. I think I understand the interview process. You're able to come now to this resource page to really get yourself connected with some quality folks, some quality people. Reference checking is one resource that we have available. As we already talked about, resume writing and LinkedIn profile. I know we didn't talk about it today, but social media definitely came up in our previous webinars, that it does play a very important role within the entire job search process. So what you have on LinkedIn and what you are doing on LinkedIn and other social media platforms is still very important. And mentorship, Michelle is actually a part of the mentoring committee. We've got a great tool and a great resource there, so please feel free to learn more or reach out to Michelle for more information on our resources there as a mentor. So with that, let me check and see, do we have any questions? Folks, we have been incredibly thorough. We have covered just about every topic that is out there. So looking back then on everything that you all have introduced and spoke to us about here today, we certainly heard specific, be very streamlined, simple, to the point, specific. Don't give us, you know, the entire book when just a few bullet points is all that we really need to get you in the door, to get you to that interview process. Be aware and cognizant of how your resume looks. It isn't the end all be all, but it certainly can break you in that process. And make sure that you are customizing your resume to that job description. Relevancy is absolute key. We heard that many times throughout this, as well as authenticity. Do not lie on the resume just to get that interview, because all it's going to happen, well, Michelle's going to be watching you, but you're going to crumble and you're going to fall apart in that interview, and that's just a waste of time for everybody. Keep all of your content goal-oriented, outcome-focused. Make sure you're telling not only what you were able to bring to the table, but how you were able to do that. We're more focused in the resume section of how you did what you did than that you were able to stack those gold coins and bring in the revenue. So with that, I will say thank you to everybody in the audience for participating today. Thank you so much to our panelists, Michelle, Samantha, and Ray. I know Ray had some other opportunities, challenges that he had to attend to today. But all of these webinars, all 4 of them have been recorded. So if some of your coworkers or fellow colleagues were not able to participate, please direct them to the League of Railway Women website, where all of them will be available to replay and refresh. But certainly career development is a very big focus and a very important element for the League of Railway Women, those on the board, our corporate sponsors, and all of our members. It is a very big initiative to us, so we're happy to help and provide all of the resources that we possibly can in terms of bringing you to the table and making sure you are prepared. So with that, again, thank you very much to everybody, and that concludes our webinar for today. Thank you very much.